What's up, guys? It's your boy, the Essential John L. Crossfire, aka The Real Main Event, aka The Rogue Soldier, and today you're about to learn firsthand just what it's like to be caught in the crossfire. But above all else, prepare yourself, because in this very moment, today, right now, you are about to be caught in conversation. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 30. Can't believe I've sat in front of a microphone for 30 straight weeks. Got a very special one this week. Now, of course, I have previously interviewed Mac Attack, which, if you haven't listened, definitely go back and listen to that. And I, of course, want to have Jeff back on at some point. But this week, I wanted to do something special for the 30th episode. So I have my very first wrestling interview this week, and I thought, who better than the guy that gave me my start, the guy that took a chance on me and allowed me to step in the ring for the first time, and that's James High Octane Lanham, of course. I debuted on his Western Warfare 3 event on my 23rd birthday in 2017, and before the pandemic kind of screwed everything up, James was actually going to be the first one to give me a shot at commentary before that ultimately got messed up. Of course, I still got to do commentary, but the sentiment is still there. Like, James, since day one, for whatever reason, has seen something in me. He gave me a chance, and I will forever be grateful for that. And given that this is, of course, it's his first interview on the podcast. Of course, it's only the second one here, as you guys are aware. I just said that. But for these wrestling interviews, I'm going to break this down in the intro so that James didn't have to hear me waffle on about it in the actual conversation that we did do. But I've done 5 core questions, the core 5 as I'm calling them, and there's actually more than 5 because 2 of them are two-parters, and then the 5th one is going to be tailored to the individual. But basically, number 1, so the first question is, what is your earliest wrestling memory? Because that's a great starting point for just about anyone and everyone that I am talking to about professional wrestling. Number 2, what was the deciding factor that got you into the business? Because most of these people that I talk to are going to be in the business in some form or fashion. Number 3, what is your favorite match of all time, both that you've been a part of and you've seen? Of course, if you're just a manager, then you can be like, hey, I managed this person in blah, blah, blah match. That's fine. Number 4, who is your dream opponent / which is your dream stipulation, or what is your dream stipulation? And then number 5 is going to be tailored to all the individuals on this podcast, and it's going to be a non-wrestling question. For example, in this conversation coming up with James, it was, what is your favorite Simpsons quote / Simpsons episode? So basically the question is going to be, what is your favorite insert question here? Just a little fun fact about the person that I am interviewing / having a chat with, having a conversation with, just getting to know the person, behind their character, if anything, and just learning a little fun fact about them. But the song of the week this week is the final song from the This Is Your Sign Part 1 album by Citizen Soldier. It is Pandora's Box. Much like all of their other songs, it's a banger. I don't think I've ever heard a bad Citizen Soldier song, and much like I waffled on about DMZU in the last episode where I said they're not going to have a bad show, I honestly don't see Citizen Soldier ever producing a bad song. And I feel that with James's music taste, we have a very similar taste in music in terms of like the heavier side of things. But Citizen Soldier, I feel, is one that James will appreciate. So I feel like you guys will appreciate it as well. That song is Pandora's Box by Citizen Soldier, of course. It's a very mental health driven song. Always remember, it's okay to not be okay. Tag someone in for help if you need it. And the match of the week this week, and I know for a fact that James is definitely going to appreciate this match, and I'm sure you guys listening to this will as well, and that is from WrestleMania 12. We have Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart in a 60-minute Iron Man match. This match is one of those all-time classics. I have gone back, I have watched it so many times, both as a fan, both as a wrestler studying. It's just absolutely mwah, chef's kiss, start to finish. Of course, spoiler alert, it goes into overtime. They go 60 minutes without a single fall, and it's just absolutely beautiful. It's magnificent. It's superb. Dare I say, sensational. Sorry, I just got to put myself over there. It's my podcast. Just joking, not really, but absolutely fantastic match. Phenomenal match. Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels, Iron Man match at WrestleMania 12 is your match of the week. And now I will transition over into my conversation with the one and only. He is a former ICW heavyweight champion. He is a former ICW Australian champion. He is a former ICW Central West champion. He is the owner and promoter of ICW Central West. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. This is James High Octane Lanham. Into the conversation we go. Hey mate, how you doing?
Hey, good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, can't complain. This weather's getting a bit ridiculous, but Australian summers, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Aircon appears to only want to work half the time, so first world problems, but we do what we got to do.
That's it.
Now, I've already hit record, so without further ado, I am talking to James High Octane Lanham. Of course, by the time I upload this, there will be an intro and all of the fun stuff, so everyone will already know that, but I'm assuming you've been very busy with your planning for Western Warfare 5, which we will get into in a little bit later, but what's that been like? I'm assuming you've been doing like your flyer drops and stuff like usual in this crazy heat as well?
I haven't got into the flyer drops yet. The poster's still in development, but early January that'll start, so that'll be even hotter by then.
Jesus, I do not envy
which would be
you
brutal. I chose the worst possible time of year for promotion.
Got to do what you got to do, though, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
But to break the ice, so to speak, for the wrestling-specific chats, especially being that this is the first time you've on, I don't doubt that I'll have you back on at some point because you're always great to chat to, full of great stories. But I've put together 5 main questions that I'll kind of sprinkle out throughout the chat or interview. I really hate saying interview because it sounds super vain, but I guess that's what it is. But some of these you've probably answered 1,000 times, and if that's the case, I apologize. Like, you did have that really awesome documentary on you that came out, which I will actually try to remember to link that in the actual episode when I upload it. But what was your earliest wrestling memory?
My earliest wrestling memory would probably be when my cousins came to visit. They were out the farm with my grandparents, and they were watching a tape, and it was King of the Ring '94.
Oh, nice.
And that's the first wrestling show I ever saw.
Nice.
And this was far past '94. This was in about late '98.
So still pretty like fresh though, like 4 years. That's still fairly current for that time period.
yeah, exactly. And the first match I ever saw was Bam Bam Bigelow versus Razor Ramon. It was the opener of that show.
Oh, because is that the year that Brett won by pinning Bam Bam?
No, that was '93.
'93.
This was the year Owen Hart won.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. Because Owen won the year after Brett. Yeah.
Yeah. But my best memory from that show was Bret Hart coming out. And it's sort of what drew me into wrestling, was seeing him make his entrance so beloved by the fans and giving his glasses to a ringsider, and I was just captured from that moment on.
He's a very good one to look at. Like, I've always been really, like, indifferent with Bret. Like, I've never been a fan of, like, the character, but at the same time, there is something, like, he's just got that cool factor that you can't, like, deny. It's just, he just oozes charisma in, like, a very different way to a lot of people. Like, The Rock, he was very loudmouthed, and people say that his charisma, but Bret Hart, although he was a strong, silent type for the most part, with his movement was just kind of like, sort of like Razor Ramon as well, just with the way that he walked.
He had that presence about him.
It's a pretty good starting point for a first time. I think the first wrestler I remember seeing, that I can remember, it was either Undertaker or Sting. It was one of the two because my dad was like a fan of both. And it was the same thing. Like, it's just that kind of presence that you're like, okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So was Bret the reason that you got into the business? What was the deciding factor later on in High Octane's life that got you into the business of professional
At
wrestling?
first, the funny thing is, at first I thought wrestling was going to be way too rough for me physically. As it turned out, it probably was. But I always wanted to be a commentator.
Yeah.
And then I started going to some of the local shows when the tours would come out to the Central West. And I saw the likes of Birdman, who wasn't the Birdman back then, he was just still Phil Picasso. And I also, I made friends with him and the likes of Youngblood Daniel Harpus in Sydney. I went to a show in Wollongong once and they invited me to sit on the commentary table with the legendary Animal Harpus.
Oh,
and I was only 14 at this stage.
Oh, Jesus.
And yeah, I didn't get to talk or anything, but I just got to watch the show from the commentary table, and because I'd made the trip and come so far to come and see them.
And in the house.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, really those early shows watching Phil Picasso and the old ACW shows watching the Harpuses and the likes of Livewire and many of those guys. Poison Ivy, Nicky Nitro was there back then.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It is, speaking of Birdman though, it wasn't in my notes, but it's really cool to see him still going. He's honestly one of the nicest dudes I think I've ever met.
Yeah, for sure. I always advertise him as the most iconic wrestling figure in Australia at the moment. I truly believe that. He's been doing this for so long.
I honestly do believe that. I got the privilege of actually getting to work with him in a triple threat match in NCPW, and it was both the most fun I'd had and yet the less work that I'd ever done. It just clicked. It was done, dusted, and all of a sudden it was just okay, that happened.
Yeah. He's everyone, a lot of people were afraid to work with him because he has that strange style of his. But then when they actually get in the ring and work with him, they say that was one of the easiest and most fun matches I've ever had.
But at what point did you decide that you wanted to actually start running shows once you had got your foot in the door in the business?
Well, I started wrestling in 2004, and I think it's what I really wanted to do from about 13 or 14. I always wanted to do, to be a wrestler, but I always had that creative side in my brain as well. And it dates back to playing with action figures when I was a kid and doing all that sort of thing. And I'd always wanted to have that creative outlet of running shows, but the opportunity, whether it was money-wise or just having the links and that with people to run shows, never sort of happened for a long time. And I sort of once ICW started, I always had this vision of bringing shows out to Cara. And I think I spoke to Rex about it, who obviously runs ICW Australia. I spoke to Rex, would have been about 2011, about my idea.
Yep.
And he loved it. He was all for it. And then sort of 2012, the wheels were put in motion, and 2013 was the first show in Cara, the first Western Warfare.
Well, I had the the honor. You took a chance on me, and I had my first match in 2017 at Western Warfare 3, and then featured pretty prominently the following year in 2018, which I'm forever grateful for. But those shows, you were right on the money. They're some of our best drawing shows. They're just, the kids love it, the adults love it, and so for such a small area like that, not many things come your way, which is a shame because it's got, that kind of, it's a small community sort of thing. It's a family. So something like professional wrestling, just bringing everyone together, for me, I think that's great.
Yeah, it's been a big thing for the town, I think, in a good way. Just bringing another form of entertainment brings a bit more to the town's economy with all the wrestlers and also fans who travel from away to come in and stay in town. Cara Council have always been very supportive. They've donated money over the times to go towards shows. They also paid for a new ring canvas a few years back.
I remember that, and that just goes to show you just how much of an impact Central West has had, on the community. The fact that the council, some councils can be a bit, ippy dippy. We've all got those potholes that are the size of the Grand Canyon, but your council says, "Hey, this is good enough that we're going to fund this." So that's got to be, a good sign for you.
Yeah, most definitely. They've been very supportive, especially the mayor, Bill West. Deputy mayor at the time, Judy Smith, rather. They've both been very supportive, as have others in council. Lawrence Ryan, who works for the council, he's been very supportive. Many others in town.
Now, you mentioned that it all started because you liked playing with your action figures and fantasy booking, and that I feel that. I still have a box of action figures somewhere. I don't know where, but they're somewhere. I myself have had that same thing. Like, I've just always had this like creative outlet, and as you know, I do like a bit of fantasy booking and writing just to kind of amuse myself, really, just to keep the creativity flowing. But I'm someone that would really, if I ever had the financial stability to run shows myself as well, what sort of like advice would you give, not just to me, but like, as I said, like just about every wrestling fan at some point has probably dreamed of at least running like just at least one show, let alone having their own like promotion. So like, what advice, if any, could you give to someone wanting to run shows or book shows?
I think probably the two main things, depending on your financial situation, would be not to overextend financially. Even if it's just, especially if it's just a one-off, is just to book basically your friends, which is pretty much what I do, and book wrestlers who have supported you, and like as a thank you. Which really, the Western Warfare one was a thank you to the people who got me to where I was.
Yeah.
So don't spend thousands of dollars bringing in wrestlers from away. Like, as good as that is, I wouldn't do that personally. Just our loyalty to those who've made me and that sort of thing. And also, you don't want to spend a fortune and then not have it have it be sustainable or anything like that. But
yeah, absolutely.
And the other thing is, and the other thing is just the fans. The fans have got to be the main priority with whatever you're doing. So keep it fan centric. Keep it like, how do I say, like, the fans have got to be the people who go home happy at the end of the night.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's been plenty of promotions, and we're not going to like name names. It's not that sort of podcast, but it's been not just in Australia, just all around the world. Like, they will take your money and run, so to speak.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And they're like, even though it is the minority, it really puts a bad stain on professional wrestling as a whole, and that's why a lot of people look at it and they say that, oh, it's carny and it's hokey and politics. And it's like, when you look at it, it's only the small minority that really do it. But unfortunately, it just kind of goes from one extreme to another.
That's exactly the term I was going to use. You don't want that to be labeled that carny sort of mentality. That you don't want people to think you have that, especially in a small town. You're never going to shake that in a small town. You have to make it clear you're here to please the people and give them their money's worth, and even raise money for charity and things of that nature. You want to be seen to be giving back to the town, and you want to give back to the town or city or wherever you happen to be. You don't want to be seen as just cutting and running with the money.
Absolutely, and that's why WWE they cop a lot of flack to this day, but I still love that when they have WrestleMania, which is like it's wrestling Super Bowl, as all wrestling fans know. Look at all like the revenue and everything that the cities are having bidding wars. They're trying to pay WWE to say, hey, I will pay you to do this stadium, because they make revenue back by like all of these people kind of flooding in. That's why I remember my debut, like, I'm not to put myself over here, but in 2017, kind of the day after, to unwind, me and my mum and my brother, we went to like the gardens and stuff in Cowra, and we just kind of did touristy stuff. And for a small town, there is actually quite a lot to kind of take in and see the sights.
Yeah, there is, definitely. It's a great town. There's a lot around. We've got the Japanese gardens, obviously the link with Japan with the PW camp breakout in the Second World War. Got a lot of fishing spots. I love my fishing personally, and got Wangler Dam. We've got the river, got the Railway Museum, got the Rose Gardens. Just a lot of attractions around town.
I'm really
that people mightn't have realised.
I'm really hoping that I can get to Western Warfare, because my mum now has prior commitments with other families, so not sure if I'm going to be able to get there or not. It might actually end up being working, because I usually work Saturdays, but I'm going to do my damnedest to be there, because so far you announced 2 matches, not last night, the night before upon recording this, and Barry Blake released a promo last night upon recording this, and so far, like, I'm already hyped as hell. You've got Super Crimson Mask versus Benny the Back Rower. Super Crimson Mask, obviously, he's another one that is a legend, and I don't use that term loosely, in Australian professional wrestling. And then Benny the Back Rower, he's quickly becoming very well known, especially in the New South Wales area.
Exactly.
And
And he came to me. He wanted to help out with the charity for the show and everything, and I was more than happy to have him. And he's been so generous and giving for the show already, and the show hasn't even really happened. But
it comes back
so gracious.
It comes back to what you said. Like, obviously, you got to try and book, the best people you can, but at the same time, don't go crazy. Like, you've had this dude that's super talented trying to get his name out, come out and reach out to you. Like, that's a pretty good mindset to have, in my opinion. Like, kudos to him for doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
having the initiative to seek it out and that sort of thing. Like,
there's a lot of, rookies that they say they want to do this and this and this, but unfortunately when it comes to the crunch time, they're nowhere to be seen. So just big props to Benny the back row there. But the second match you've announced so far is Birdman, who we were just talking about, versus Jake Gibson. I personally, I would travel just for this match.
Oh, for sure. It's going to be great.
Like, we put over, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but we put over Birdman.
Oh, you're right.
And then you've got Jake Gibson. He's another one that, for a dude, like, he's just a dude should not be that talented. I just don't understand.
No. I see so much of him in a lot of the New Japan wrestlers like Chase Owens and people like that. I definitely see Jake Gibson in there. So he's come along a long way in the few years he's been wrestling for, and he's so talented. He's crowd interaction's really good, whether he's heel or face.
And of course, he's training with, the Wrestle Strong Dojo, of course, Dean Draven, a very, very accomplished professional wrestler in his own right.
Oh, for sure.
And then
absolutely.
And then on top of that, as I said, you had Barry Blake do a promo. He's basically done an open challenge to anyone and everyone on the roster. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's very much the Barry Blake mentality in real life. Like, he's willing to do whatever it takes.
He is. He's not afraid to kind of throw himself under the bus, and I mean that like in the best way possible. Like I talk to Baz pretty regularly, like on social media and stuff, and he's a loose unit, but like in all the good ways. Like he's always looking to challenge himself, which in a business like this is especially a good mentality to have, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly, and he's a bit of a local celebrity around town. Like he's played with the reserve grade for the Carra Magpies in the rugby league, and he's even boxed like in a boxing show a couple of years back.
Yeah, I saw that. I think he came out to Coach's Personality or something, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, and he was the most over boxer all night. The pop he got was incredible.
Which is, it's what you want. Like, he's your friend. You yourself had a hand in training him, but he's kind of, he's getting his name out there. He's getting notoriety. Why not put him on the show? Helping both of you, that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But are there any
people just like to put out the thing?
Are there any other matches that you can announce here on the pod? Keeping in mind this will be Boxing Day by the time that this drops, so that's this coming Sunday.
Well, probably, I guess this is as good a time as any to announce the main event.
Oh, okay.
Main event will be...
Exclusive.
Yeah, exactly. Will be for the newly created Emma Butler Memorial Championship. Emma Butler obviously being my girlfriend who passed away from tongue cancer earlier this year. And the competitors for this will be Atticus Slane coming out of retirement.
Okay. I was wondering why he asked me to ask you something that I'll get to later.
All right. And he'll be taking on myself in a last man standing match we've got set it at the moment.
Oh, Jesus, you guys are going to kill each other.
Which we've never had in Carra before.
Oh, okay. So I definitely need to try and get there then. Whether I'm backstage, whether I'm in the crowd, whether I'm on commentary, that's a match that I would 100% want to see.
Yeah, it's going to be. I'm going to give my all, and hopefully we put on a classic. In addition to that, Emma's family will be in attendance and will present the winner of that match with the belt.
Oh,
at the end.
That's really good.
Yeah, they've been so supportive and helped out with this show so much, and they've just been amazing.
This one kind of, I don't know if I actually told you this or not, but it kind of hit home a little bit for me because, as crazy as this world is, my dad actually had the same tongue cancer and passed away from.
Oh,
that
oh.
Emma did as well. So I think
I didn't realize it was
so I think that's kind of why I'm like even a little like I'm always, trying my best to support ICW and its affiliates, but I think why this show specifically it's kind of like, I was kind of trying to promote it the best I could as it was, and then
thank you.
saw, the what Emma's charity was, and it had the name of the cancer, and I was like, holy shit. And I looked at my wife and I'm like, isn't that like what my dad had? And she's like, I think it was. And I was just like, that's so crazy. Like, I think dad had about, 3 or 4 different types of cancers, throughout his life from about the age of 13. But the one that he unfortunately ultimately lost his battle to was the same one in the tongue. So that's that's just kind of crazy. But my next note that I had written was actually about the Memorial Championship, but you've obviously just mentioned that. So no, that's all good. My question was just going to be, is this going to be defended like a regular championship on all of the ICW shows, or will it just be defended once a year at Central West?
At the moment, the plans are for it to be at least defended at ICW Central West shows. Okay. So that will be like the Western Warfare shows, the Cara show, the festival, that sort of thing. Up to Rex whether he wants it defended in Canberra. But yeah, at least it'll be a regular title out here.
So that was kind of my question as well. So like it is a sanctioned title within the realm of ICW Central West. That's awesome. And it's a beautiful looking championship as well, of course. You went through Royal Label titles, and as you saw, I got some championships made up for my wedding, and they're like even though he knew what they were for, he still put in like the work. Like they're show quality championships, which is just insane, which is good in a way, because if I somehow ever actually have the funds to run my own shows, at least I know that, hey, I have a reliable belt maker that I can go to.
Exactly. I definitely recommend it to anyone who wants any level of championship belt, but definitely show-ready championships, like comparable to anywhere. I believe these are very affordable, and they're just the work you put in, the level of commitment to making sure every detail is what you want. He's great with that.
Yeah, well, I've said that to pretty much anyone. Every time I see someone on, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever social media they use these days, like, hey, where can I get championships made in Australia? And a lot of people are like, oh, this place, and this place. They ship internationally. And I'm like, no, Royal Label's like here in Australia, and they'll do it for this price, and it's still, this quality. And I can't stress that enough. Like, it's just fantastic. I can't wait to hopefully get a chance to see the Emma Butler Memorial Championship in person.
Yeah, it's an amazing belt.
On the topic of questions, on the topic of champions, I'm tripping all over my words. My apologies. Barry Blake wants to know, who on the roster do you see with potential to be a future champion in Central West? I think he was trying to hint at himself with that one, but who on the roster do you see having the potential to be champion, whether it's the Emma Butler champion or the Central West champion?
Well, there's quite a few. I definitely put Barry up there in years to come with his level of commitment and just wanting to get himself out there. Birdman obviously would be one. I think he definitely deserves a title shot down the track. There's a few, like I believe Adrian Axton, just biggest heart of pretty much anyone. Like he can make a great champion.
I've said that on commentary when I said that about Adrian Axton, that in my opinion, I think he is the heart and soul of the ICW locker room.
Yeah, very much so.
And then the same can also be said for a guy like Benny Whiplash as well.
Yeah, exactly right.
And then, of course,
both.
Tank is
great.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but Tank, he has a very strong fan following, especially in the Central West area.
Yeah. It definitely does.
But switching
gears.
Just
right over the crowd.
Sorry about that. But switching gears was on the same theme of the Central West Championship. It's really hard doing a phone conversation because you can't see when someone's about to say something. My apologies. But sticking with the same theme of the Central West Championship, you have a very big match coming up on February 5th at Insane Asylum, which will be at the Belconnen Community Centre. You're going to be challenging Nick Maltino in an attempt to regain the Central West Championship. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, what's your game plan, what's your strategy, because why would you reveal that on a public forum? But besides the obvious trying to win back the championship itself, is there anything else that you're looking to gain or get out of this match, if that makes sense?
I guess that's hard to say. I want to have as good a match as possible, obviously. I haven't wrestled since April last year due to the COVID. And I want to just show that I still belong. Like, I've lost 12 kilos recently and
very good.
Been training hard. Oh, thanks. And I just want to show that even at nearly 34 years of age and with all the injuries I've got, that I still belong in the ring, can still go to at least some degree. And hopefully win that fourth Central West Championship.
Now, unfortunately, I won't be on attendance for that one. I'll be in Melbourne for my wife's birthday, but I'm wishing you all of the best of luck with that. Myself and Nick Maltino have a very love-hate relationship. Like, he's a very nice guy outside the ring, despite what you'd think. But inside the ring, he's always just taking all these dirty tactics, and I want to see someone put him in his place. Like, and I think this is a good time as ever. Like, I as a competitor gave High Octane as the commissioner a lot of hard times because I didn't agree with things. But looking back and in hindsight, I feel like you were just kind of trying to do your job from what management were telling you. So I apologize on that front. Because sitting at that commentary desk and watching the Syndicate basically run roughshod on the entire roster, it put a lot in perspective. And I'm like, damn, I wish that I could get in the ring one more time and shut them down. Unfortunately, that's not on the cards. But speaking of matches, and this makes sense now why Atticus Slane asked me this question, because I thought he was a tie, but he said, quote, ask him if he's ready for these hands. What is your response to that, if any?
I would like to think I'm ready for these hands for sure. I mean, I'm going in with a pretty good mindset, fitter than I have been. Still carrying some injuries, obviously, but they're going to give it my all and do the absolute best I can to give a match for the fans to remember.
As I said, I 100% hope to be there, and if I can be there, hopefully I can be on commentary, because it sounds like an absolute banger of a match, and I'm just kind of like, I'm both excited to see what you guys will put each other through, and also kind of concerned because, again, outside of the ring, I trained with Atticus Slane. We got very close, and then he stepped in the ring, and all of a sudden he got a really big head. But at the same time, I know that he is willing to put himself through the paces. I've obviously followed High Octane for quite a long time. I know that he's willing to put himself through the paces. So I'm like, the lengths that the two of you are probably going to go to try and get the other man down, it's going to be brutal.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, for sure. Might have to give Bunnings a bit of a raid beforehand. I'll see what happens, but
the old Bunnings special.
Yeah.
Speaking of matches, though, and I'll segue back into some of the core 5 questions that I mentioned before, and this one is a 2-parter. Question number 3 was, what is your favorite match of all time, both that you have had and that you've seen?
Yeah. I'll start with what matches I have had. I would have to say, and it's a really hard thing to
You don't have
just
to
come up with one
either if you don't want to.
I think my all-time favorite match was with Rex, and it was at the first Western Warfare, and it was for both the Central West Championship and the Lanham Memorial Championship, which is the trophy we do for my grandpa every year.
Yes.
And just the crowd and just the match we had just went off without a hitch, and the crowd were just there every step of the way. And this was the first show we'd ever done in Cara, and just the crowd were they were like a seasoned wrestling crowd by the end of it. We didn't have to lead them or do much to get them into it. They were just in it for the whole time. And I think that was my best match of all time, personally.
To your credit, though, as well, as you know, I have your DVD. I studied your DVD a few times when I was a competitor. There's a handful of matches on there between yourself and Rex, well before that Western Warfare event. And there's something about that, whether or not you guys were on the same page at the same time or not. Rex has had his moments over the years. He's currently slipped back into his old ways with the Syndicate, unfortunately. But you guys have just always had such good chemistry. I don't think I've ever seen a bad High Octane versus Rex match. And this is where, like, you know, a lot of people say that this person's the best wrestler in the world, or this is the best match in the world. Like, those matches are some of the best matches that I've honestly ever seen between yourself and Rex. And it's just a shame that, you know, Rex has had, you know, health issues over the years, and obviously as yourself as well with, you know, your back injuries and stuff. But that does not surprise me at all that, you know, the crowd would react like that. I remember, so I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I was up in the balcony Western Warfare 3 because I was really curious. I wanted to watch yourself versus Rob Messenger, and then of course, you know, Crimson Mask came out and all hell broke loose and the lights went off. They came back on. Rex was standing there with the chair. The whole building, I could feel it shaking from how crazy the fans were going for seeing Rex coming to save High Octane.
Yeah, it was like he was the last hero left, and he came out and he saved the day basically, and the response, which was exactly what I was hoping for, like, yeah, it was magic, pure magic that moment.
And even, you know, the following year, the triple threat, yourself, Rex, and Mike Kelly, fantastic match, which was actually featured in that documentary that I mentioned earlier as well, that I'll try and remember to link that when I upload this. I'll try really hard to make a mental note of that. But, okay, so you versus Rex, first Western Warfare. What's your favorite match or favorite couple of matches that you've seen, whether it's small promotions, big promotions, just, you know, take your pick.
I think one that I really enjoyed, and I keep going back, I watched it 10 or 20 times, would have to be, both for match quality and just pure emotion, Ring of Honor Best in the World, I believe it was 2011, the main event for the Ring of Honor title, and it was Davey Richards versus Eddie Edwards.
Oh my God, yes.
And they got a full 30 minutes just all out, and then when the result happens and the eventual winner is just like so emotionally overwhelmed, and it just was a huge moment and just sells how important a championship win can be, and just the match itself was just so physical. They just went at it for a full 30-something minutes and did not stop, did not take a break. That's possibly one of my favourite matches.
And then, like, I love that as well that you mentioned Davey and Eddie, because not only did they have some great wars because of this, whether or not they liked each other or not, their mutual respect for professional wrestling, it turned them into, honestly, one of the greatest tag teams of all time. Like, a lot of people may scoff at that, but I would put them up there with the likes of, you know, a Hart Foundation or a Dudley Boys, or even the Young Bucks, who, you know, they're very controversial, but they've well and truly, you know, kind of established themselves as one of the greatest tag teams. But the Wolves are just absolute magic, whether they're teaming or facing each other. They actually, I don't know if you've watched it or not, but they recently reunited at Sammy Callahan's promotion for Wrestling Revolver. I was fanboying so hard because they came out, you know, to their actual old, you know, Wolves theme song and everything, and I was just like, I had goosebumps. It was like a kid on Christmas.
Yeah, I was going to see that and watch it. That would be amazing.
They were meant to be facing the reuniting Sammy and John Moxley, but Sammy unfortunately got injured, and now Moxley, you know, he's in rehab. We're all wishing him the best, but they have said that once everyone's 100%, whether it's Wrestling Revolver, you know, AEW, Impact, they're saying that somehow, some way, they're going to make this tag match happen, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, I cannot wait for that. Like, just, as you say, just the story and the drama and just everything.
Yeah.
But who is your dream opponent / what is your dream stipulation? And again, can name multiple if you want. Like, this is completely up to you. It's your answer. Yeah.
I really couldn't say. Probably my dream opponent that I have wrestled will be Rex, just because the history between us and some of the matches we've had and that sort of thing. Of like huge name wrestlers that like from America and that. If he was still wrestling, I reckon Bret Hart would be an amazing person to wrestle. If he was still alive, Eddie Guerrero was also one of my favorites.
100%. I'm biased because he's my hero. Like, I say that every time he's mentioned, and people are probably sick of it, but he was just magical.
He's definitely one of the best. I was just so upset the day he passed. And I remember the day he won the heavyweight title in WWE. Like, just I didn't expect him to. I thought he was just being fed to Brock Lesnar, but no, he won that, and it was. I was so amazed. Like, I never anticipated buying a DVD so much as I did that to buy that DVD of No Way Out 2004.
Yeah, well, I remember obviously sorry, I didn't mean to cut you out. At that time, I was like 10 or 11, so like I didn't have access to the internet and stuff. So, I wasn't getting spoilers. Like I was seeing stuff months after it happened, sort of thing, because I was buying pay-per-view DVDs. But I remember I got the Eddie Guerrero one specifically, and it was like I think it was a year or two after it happened. But because I wasn't able to watch regularly, because at the time we've never actually had Foxtel, Ozstar, whatever. Like I've always watched it at friends' houses. So it was probably about 2 years later that I got to watch it, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "Eddie was the champion, and no one told me." And all my friends were just like, "Oh, I thought you knew," and I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like I'm just losing my mind. Like it was like happening like that day, and all my friends are like, "It's 2 years old." And I'm just like, "What?"
That's incredible. I used to have a mate who would basically record the wrestling on tape for me every week. So I'd follow the weekly shows, but because I didn't have Foxtel at the time and didn't have the internet at home at the time either. So I remember the pay-per-view was coming up, and I usually didn't have any way of watching the pay-per-views until after. But I watched the SmackDown the week after, and they did like the celebration, and I was just so excited. And then just counted down the weeks till that DVD would come out at Big W, and it was so good to see it finally.
Yeah, well, I actually, the episode I just recorded yesterday, I've recorded it a few days late. But as part of the wrestling news, did you see that WWE, they're getting rid of basically WWE home video completely? It said in the US and Canada, and then I looked into it, and it's here as well. Like it's literally just about everywhere except for a couple of special releases here and there in the UK. Like that's nuts to me.
Oh, it is too, like, because I guess in America they have far better internet than us, so everyone basically can have the WWE Network or Peacock or whatever, like without too much trouble. But like out here, especially out this way, there's places you can't get quality enough NBN to be able to have streaming services.
Well, I've had this conversation with Teak. I'm like, because I'm trying to declutter like my DVDs and TV shows and stuff like that, just in general, but. There's a couple of wrestling ones I was like, oh, maybe I can get rid of it. And she's like, no, like you're not getting rid of anything from your wrestling section, because she's like, what's going to happen one of these days if the network crashes and you can't watch this ECW event or this WCW event? And I'm like, yeah, okay, like that's a fair enough. It's fair enough point, I guess.
Yeah, very true. Like I'm the type of guy who never gets rid of much at all. Like I keep most of all of my collection. I've got hundreds of DVDs and tapes and stuff, but yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, it's good to still have the hard copies there, like even if you're using the network.
There's just something magical about just having it like there. Like I mentioned it on the episode as well, but Impact Wrestling, like they just, I don't know if you've seen this or not, but Impact Wrestling just released a VHS of Slammiversary, and it's sold out, and I'm like, yeah, it's probably going to sit there like just as a collector's item and collect dust. But at the same time, like it's still sold, which makes you wonder why. Like Impact is selling VHSs and your shit can DVDs. Like it just boggles my mind. Yeah.
I used to work in a charity op shop, and 5 or 6 years ago, we couldn't sell videotapes for 20 cents. We basically had to toss them. Oh, wow. And now videotapes have become a collectible item once again. Well, whether it's well-known movies or wrestling or whatever, like people are seeking them out just for like reliving their childhood and the nostalgia and that.
Well, I mean, vinyl's made a comeback, quite a few years ago now. So I had this conversation recently with Teak. I'm like, it's just a matter of time. Like cassette tapes and VHSs are probably going to come back at some point, even if it is just for like a brief novelty.
Yeah, exactly. And that may well happen with DVDs too, like in future.
Yeah, well, even like CDs, like they've died out so much, and I'm like, I still try my best to like, buy CDs. Like, I think I have the Fozzy Judas album still in the plastic, but at the same time, it's like they are my favorite band, and it's like I feel like buying the physical copy, it's still, not only does it adds to the collection, it collects dust, but it supports them more than anything digital ever will. Yeah, exactly.
Like some of my favorite bands, like I'm usually doing the Spotify thing nowadays, which I never thought I would do. But like my very favorite bands, like the likes of Disturbed, I'll still buy their albums when they come out, and like my top bands that I like, I'll do my best to like buy CDs still. Yeah, Yeah, same with streaming, all the various streamings. I never thought I'd jump on the bandwagon, but I sort of had to after a while.
I swear they just keep piling them up and piling them up as well.
Yeah, exactly. I've got way too many. I think I've got like 9 wrestling streaming services I subscribe to at any given time.
Yeah, I think.
And that's like on top of Netflix and stuff.
Yeah, I think I've got, like, in terms of just wrestling, I think I've got, like, 4, 5, maybe 6.
Yeah.
It's just like, it just
and that's up.
But in terms of, like, dream stipulations, like, I know that you've always said that you want to have a death match and stuff as well, but are there any, like, dream stipulations specifically that High Octane would like to have?
I reckon it's probably not possible anymore, money-wise or anything, but I wouldn't mind trying something like some sort of structure like a cage or something like that, just for the stuff that you could do in there that you can't do anywhere else.
Yeah, I've always said that. I'm like, I really want, like, I'm the same, like, whether it doesn't matter if it's a cage, cell, whatever, like, just, it's the spectacle of it, especially, like, if you can afford it.
Yeah.
Like yourself versus Rex, for example, right? Or yourself versus Atticus Slane. Those are 2 feuds that, imagine, like, if you could put a cage up inside the Cara Civic Center, like, that would just be, that'd just be amazing,
that'd
right?
Be so, yeah. That'd be incredible. I don't know if it'll happen funding-wise or anything, and that roof in the Civic Center, while not low, it does have a lot of, like, obstacles on it, but to fit a cage in.
That'll be the day that High Octane finally decides that, okay, I'm going to retire for real now. I've had a cage match. See ya. But you, like me, as I mentioned, you don't mind a bit of deathmatch wrestling here and there.
Yeah.
And you've kind of dabbled in it a little bit with the tax and stuff, and you've been pretty vocal about wanting to find a way to actually at least have one deathmatch. Have you been checking out Deathmatch Down Under on IWTV?
I've watched a few clips, not a whole show yet, but I hope to soon. Mostly just because I've been too busy, but I'll have to give them a watch. Like, they're doing really great things, and
I would highly recommend it. Like, I might be biased because, like, I've watched all of their shows, but just from start to finish, they haven't had a bad show yet. And, like, obviously, like, even being a deathmatch promotion, they're still focusing very heavily on their heavyweight division and tag team divisions as well. So, like, you've got a really, really good balance of,
I like CZW out there. Yeah.
Very much so, yeah. And then the deathmatch tournament they just had, like, again, maybe I'm biased because it was a big deal. It's the first ever one in Australia, but that's one of the best deathmatch tournaments I've seen, like, ever. Like, I haven't seen, like, every single, CZW one or, GCW one, but I've seen quite a lot of stuff, and there's been, most of them I kind of just watch, here and there. I've never actually sat down and watched a full one because, like, like, a lot of those, like, with all due respect to those people in CZW and stuff like that, I feel like a lot of them, they kind of went gore for the sake of gore in some aspects. And with DMDU, you've got guys like Joel Bateman, who you know very well, and you've got young guys like Damian Rivers and Callum Butcher, and JXT even had a little bit of a dabble in a death match. It's just like, they're telling stories like, that someone's going to get sliced and diced, but they're making you, like, work for it for the most part. Yeah. Which I think that just comes back to the basic psychology of wrestling, though, maybe. So maybe that's why I'm biased, but very good stuff. I'd highly recommend, especially the Dream Deathmatch Tournament show. Yeah.
I had, not that I had a deathmatch with him or anything, but I had one of my all-time favourite matches with Joel Bateman. Back in, I think, 2012. He's a very skilled wrestler, knows his stuff.
I actually have written here in my notes here that I have watched your match with Joel Bateman. That's actually on the High Octane DVD.
Yeah.
And you guys had a great match, and I personally, I don't know how or where it's going to happen, but I would 100% pull for High Octane versus Joel Bateman in a death match.
Oh, maybe. I'm still undecided whether to go down the deathmatch route. Kind of a personal thing, but there is the rumor that white tubes cause cancer, and obviously what happened with Emma and everything.
Yes, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm sort of undecided. I'll have to do a bit of soul searching and think of what to do with that. But
that's fair enough. That's fair enough. But what got you in to being a fan of the deathmatch side of things?
I guess I always read the wrestling magazines from when I was about 11. And both Power Slam and WoW magazine and a few others would cover the death matches. I never actually saw a death match till I was 16.
Okay.
There used to be a gentleman who'd come to the shows and he'd sell his DVDs and stuff, and he had some CZW and a few other deathmatch promotions. And I started buying them, and then after a while I started ordering from Smart Mark Video and built up a pretty good collection, which I still have, of like CZW and IWA Mid-South and Deep South and East Coast, those sort of promotions. And
nice.
I just really got into the deathmatch scene for a long time there, and still do.
So that's why
Sorry,
continue.
I was just going to say, I don't know what really drew me to it, but I think it was just the dedication. I think of anything else. Like these guys, even the ones who aren't that well trained or anything, they're so dedicated to what they do, and they're so willing to just lay it all on the line. And most of them are well trained and put on good quality matches. So I think more so than the violence, it's the dedication.
A lot of people, they'll look at deathmatch wrestling, and we mentioned before about, politics and stuff and making stuff carny. Deathmatch wrestling really falls into that category, which is unfortunate because a lot of people will look at it and go, oh, that's stupid, they're just carving themselves up. Anyone could do it. And it's like, well, okay, go do it. And then it's like,
yeah, exactly.
Like,
would you be willing to do it for the small payoffs these guys are getting? Like, that's what I ask anyone.
It's the creative juices flowing. It's the adrenaline rush. It's just everything,
Yeah.
But do you have a favorite death match specifically that you kind of gone back to?
One of my favorite deathmatch wrestlers would be Thumbtack Jack.
Okay, yeah.
Who since has retired. From Germany. I like a lot of his matches. He had a really great match at Tournament Death. I think it was 8. Him and DJ Hyde. They just did some insane stuff that set the bar even higher for American death matches. I also really enjoy Nick Mondo.
Yes.
His work, especially his efforts at Tournament Death 2, when he went off the roofs of the light tubes and the tables and then still had another match later. And I'm also a big fan of Masada. A lot of his matches, especially likes of Jack and Thumbtack Jack and Jun Kasai in Japan. And Matt Tremont's another one who sticks out to me as well.
So some
stuff.
Pretty big names there in deathmatch wrestling that you've just name dropped. But one you did mention that I don't know about you, but I feel like he should be more well known, and that's DJ Hyde.
Yes.
He's almost a jack of all trades. Like he's doing, I don't know, I've got Tubi, which is like a free streaming site. They've actually got a couple of old CZW stuff on there. They've got a compilation of the Young Bucks, Kevin Steen. I think they've got Drew Gulak randomly. But DJ Hyde, I'm pretty sure, was the host of all of those video compilations.
Yeah. And he's a very talented commentator too. A few times I've seen him do commentary.
There was, I can't remember who was facing, but it was Kevin Steen versus someone. I should be able to remember because I only watched it a week ago and it was a fantastic match. But DJ Hyde was on commentary and it was just holy shit, where has this guy been my whole life? Yeah. It's I've seen him, in the ring, and I've seen him actually hosting stuff, but I've only heard him actually on commentary a couple of times. But just that one match that I was watching, and especially now that I've dabbled in a bit of commentary myself and having a bit of hindsight, I looked at him this dude is good. Why did he not have a career in commentating?
Yeah, exactly. And he comes. I don't know if you've seen the Vice documentary about CZW and the Tournament of Death itself.
I have seen it, but it's been a while since I've seen it.
He comes across so good and knowledgeable, and just as a good person for the industry. He's been often maligned by many, but I believe he's done a good job running CZW and in his various roles there.
But before we transition, speaking of death matches, do you have a specific do you have a favorite deathmatch stipulation that you like to see or would like to see?
One of the best deathmatch stipulations that has always produced an insane match, I think, is the 200 light tubes barbed wire ropes, or even no rope barbed wire 200 light tubes sort of match.
Yes, just all the all the glass just shattering everywhere, and it's I said this in one of my DMDU reviews as well. As weird as it sounds, it's oddly satisfying when they're rolling around and you can hear like the glass like clinking and crunching. It's like this weird like ASMR thing. It's just, I don't know, maybe I'm just mentally like messed up, but there's just something really fascinating about it.
Oh, there is. Like, I remember the exact same word he used, just satisfying. I was showing some friends of mine, married couple, death matches for the first time, and one of them was just like, "This is satisfying to watch." And that was exactly true. Like, exactly right.
And it's funny because like Mrs. Crossfire, like she's not big on like the fork spot and like the spike and like anything that involves like some sort of stabbing. She's not a fan of. And the cheese grater she absolutely hates. But even she, like, she's sat down and she's watched a bit of DMDU with me. She watched Joel Bateman versus Charlie Evans, and she was like, she was just losing her mind. And when it was over, she's like, I never thought I would have like enjoyed something like that. And I'm like, well, here you are.
Exactly. It's sort of like you have to give it a chance and sit there and watch it for a bit, not just dismiss it because it's violent and bloody. Like, if you watch it and sort of can decipher the storytelling and all what's going into it, I think it's a very good art form, very good form of wrestling.
Absolutely. But as we start to kind of wind down a little bit, who do you most want to hit with the Vortex in 2022?
I don't know. I think after the sneak attack, last time I wrestled him, maybe hit Nick Maltino with that Vortex and come away with the Central West title would be quite satisfying.
I believe that was the one where he beat you for the championship, and it was
it was in a gauntlet match.
I was on commentary for that, and I people probably got sick of me ranting, but I was just like, no, like, okay, Nick Maltino, the Deathstroke elbow is a legitimate move on its own right. Why did he have to resort to attacking you when you'd already, been through other stuff previously? Yeah,
exactly. Like, I had to pull out of the Rumble that night because I didn't go to hospital, but I think I had a mild concussion from, I think it was a boot earlier in the match, the face. And so if anyone was wondering, that's why I wasn't in the Rumble later that night.
I think that Deathstroke elbow, though, may have kind of been the nail in the coffin, to be honest.
I think that put
the he's got some decent size on it, on his shoulders, on his arms.
Yeah. He's in good shape and he's a strong fellow and hell of a striker. Like, he's got that boxing background.
Like, low key.
I remember.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was saying, I remember wrestling him years ago in a chain match, and we both were taking turns like wrapping our fists and feet and stuff with the chain, and just punching and kicking each other. And I came away with like so many knots all over my head and neck. Absolutely brutal.
Yeah, well, low key. Some of I've been, as we said, we've both we know Birdman very well, and he's known for his chops, but Nick Maltino, from chops that I've felt, besides maybe a Nate Carlo, his hands just felt like absolute bricks. But besides that, Nick Maltino may be one of the most devastating people I've ever been chopped by in a match.
Yeah. Like, he's not like a huge guy like a Blakestone or someone, but he puts everything he has behind his guy.
He throws his entire body into it, and all of a sudden you're on the ground, and you're like, did I just get hit by a truck? Like,
exactly.
But Joel Southgate wanted me to ask you, and this is a pretty hard-hitting question, but I feel like it is valid. He wanted to know, in your opinion, as High Octane, do you still feel that with the new Slam promotion popping up, is ICW still the number one promotion in the ACT? Because personally, for me, I feel like more wrestling is always going to be great, but at the same time, I've never ran shows or, dare I say, compete with another promotion in such a small area. So what's your thoughts on that?
It is hard question, and it's a hard thing to challenge, like, to compete with other promotions. And Slam are doing well with what they're doing with their huge crowd for their first show and that sort of thing. And they got some good wrestlers like Dan Archer and others. But I think, there's still a claim to fame for ICW as being the number one promotion, in that we've been doing this for over 10 years. And yes, their crowds can be small at times, but there's been plenty of times we've got like 150, 200, 250 people in the crowd. At the end of the day, like, in not a huge market for wrestling, it's a good market. Like, the crowd are they're very vocal and they enjoy the shows, but it's not as big as, say, Sydney or Melbourne.
Absolutely.
And like, I'd say we do well just to be there, like, just to be doing regular shows nearly every month. Like, yeah, I think we're still number one in that we're running regularly. We're still drawing crowds, like, to a certain extent. And just, put that effort in. And so we've got a tight-knit group of wrestlers who are there, like, every month putting their all in front of those crowds. And, yeah, I think we're still doing pretty well.
Absolutely. Like, as I said, like, it was just, I thought it was a good question. I still think wrestling, having more wrestling there is good in a way, because in a way that possibly gives some of our guys a chance to work, twice a month in the months that they run as well. So I feel like it's a positive for, the scene in Canberra. I know Joel Bateman hates when people use the word scene because it's not a scene, it's a business, but within that particular area of the ACT, I think it's a positive at least.
Yeah.
In terms of watching stuff though, you've been watching anything noteworthy related to wrestling lately, whether it's current stuff or old stuff?
Been getting into New Japan a lot lately.
Yeah.
Been watching a lot of their stuff on New Japan World. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, we're watching New Japan, watching a little AEW. Been keeping up with WWE to some extent. Watching some older, like, DVDs and stuff. Like, I've got a couple of Christmases ago, I got a couple of big grab bags from High Spots and just random DVDs. And I've been watching stuff like old classic Memphis wrestling.
Oh, nice.
Which I never really had seen before. And it's really good. Like, some of the picture quality isn't great, but just, both the wrestling and the storylines are pretty, like, ahead of their time.
In terms of, like, the golden age of wrestling, a lot of people came through that kind of area.
Yeah, exactly. Even watch, like, Steve Austin later and others, and obviously Jerry Lawler, all that he did down there.
And I was talking to Teak about this. We're watching, I can't remember what we were watching, but it was something when she's like, does Jerry Lawler genuinely hate ECW or is that at work? And I'm like, I honestly think he does, because if you look at Memphis wrestling, and they touched on this, I think it was one of the Dark Side of the Ring episodes where they were talking about, might have been the XPW one or something, but they were talking about hardcore wrestling in Memphis. I can't remember which episode it was. But I was explaining to her that, that's basically where the hardcore style, in my opinion, at least in the United States, was truly born, was in the Memphis, Tennessee area.
They did those stipulation matches, like the scaffold matches and things like that hadn't been done so much elsewhere.
You had, like, Terry Funk doing, like, the chain matches and the bull rope matches and the I Quit matches.
Terry Funk's such, like, a gem for the industry. I'm a big fan of his. Yeah,
it's very sad to hear the current state that he is in, but I don't think anyone's, that shocked, considering what he's put his, his body and his mind through over the years.
Exactly.
And again, it comes back to what we were saying about the dedication of wrestlers in death matches, whether it's hardcore matches or regular matches. Terry Funk's a dude that was just, he was putting anything and everything. He was wrestling every match like it was his last match, so to speak.
Yeah, he just gave it his all, and he's always been nice to the fans, and, like, he just seems like such a humble bloke for all he's achieved. It's sort of one of the draw cards I have to him. Like, 100%. He hasn't got the ego of some of the others from that era.
Like, I think it was the XPW episode again. I'm pretty sure that's what it was, because it was, like, hardcore related. But Terry Funk was on one of the later episodes of the most recent season of Dark Side of the Ring, which obviously they filmed last year, so it was before his health started declining too much. But obviously he seemed like a little bit out of it there, and you're like, oh crap, that's kind of sad, because you look at it and it's foreshadowing to where we are now. But someone asked him a question, and he was basically like, he's like, who are you? And he's like, I'm Terry Funk. And he was like, I'm the greatest professional wrestler of all time. But he just said it so casually, and then he's like, what's your question? It wasn't like real in your face. It was just like, okay, well, now that you're asking me, I think I'm the best ever. But he doesn't really just scream it, sort of thing, which I love that. Because he's just so calm and cool. It was the FMW episode. That's what it was. They were talking about Onita's like explosions and stuff like that. That's what it was. We're talking about hardcore and stuff. But Terry Funk, they're like, who are you? And he's like, I'm Terry Funk, best professional wrestler of all time. And he just said it so casually and coolly. It was like, well, it's definitely up for debate, that's for sure.
Yeah. And talking about Onita, you asked some other things I've been watching. I recently watched the Exploding Ring match with Onita and Matt Tremont in H2O. It was in, like, a baseball field in New Jersey.
Oh, nice.
In Tremont's Ocean. And, that whole show was really good, and that match was a hell of a spectacle. And yeah, Tremont's doing great things with his promotion. A lot of his students are working there, and yeah, he's done well, like breaking away from some of the other companies and doing his own thing. I think he's a sign of what a good promoter like can do. Even with only a pretty low budget and like not huge name wrestlers, he's done very well.
Yeah, 100%. And I also just saw, I think it was last night, again, might have been the night before upon recording this, but they've just announced that Anita's returning to the US and he's having a death match with Bully Ray of all people.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's such a weird pairing, but like I'm actually, I'm pretty keen at the same time to see how that goes.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be strange to say. Do you know what promotion it's in, or?
I believe it was BCW.
All right. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. Like, you'd think there'd be a sort of a clash of styles there, but sort of not.
I think it's like, it kind of makes sense to an extent because it's like, you know, FMW versus ECW, but beyond that, I don't think there's really much of a story. But at the same time, because it is such of a clash of styles, I'm kind of intrigued to see like just how well they'll play off each other.
Exactly.
But
and Anita can be such a good heel or a face, like, and Bully obviously being the prototypical like heel.
I'm assuming they're going to have it where Anita comes in as like the monster babyface, and then you've got Bully Ray kind of like harking back to his, you know, ECW Bubba Ray Dudley Rays, because Lord knows he started some riots back in those days with things they definitely weren't okay to be saying, and especially in this day and age, it's not okay to be saying. But at the end of the day, what's done is done. But very interested in seeing, you know, how that goes. But the last question on, you know, of the 5 questions that I put together, it's a non-wrestling question, and I'm going to tailor it to the specific guest's needs. With this case, I know that you and I, we bond randomly with all these bunch of like Simpsons memes and stuff like that. Yeah. So my question to end this is, what is your favorite Simpsons quote / reference, and what is your favorite Simpsons episode?
Oh, I couldn't tell you. I think / reference, there's so many. One of our favorite ones in our family that we're always saying comes from the episode where Lisa climbed the big redwood to like protest being chopped down, and Homer was building a ladder to reach the redwood and rescue her. And Bart sends her a letter, like, explaining this, and it's like, Dad is building a ladder, but he's of poor quality. And we use that so often in our family. Like,
I think
every time we do something or someone makes something.
I heard you say that at one of the Central West shows.
I probably did.
That, you know, I'm gonna make that the episode name. Dad is building a ladder.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think favorite episode, that's one of them for sure. I always have been partial to 22 short films about Springfield. That episode where it's just like all the side characters, what they do in that.
Yes.
You have like Bumblebee Man and Comic Book Guy and a bunch of others. The guy who has the shop with all the weapons.
There's so many underappreciated side characters in The Simpsons. You'd think like what, season 33 or something now? Like, you'd think there'd be a little bit more about like Bumblebee Man, especially as a kid, was one of my favorites. Like, just the I for whatever reason. Like, I know in this day and age, that's probably, you know, might come across possibly, you know, a bit racial, but as a kid, I thought it was funny. It's like, you know, he's this dude in a Bumblebee suit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But did you want to give one final plug for Western Warfare 5 and all the details and all the fun stuff?
Yeah, sure. Well, Western Warfare 5 will be at Cara Civic Centre, March 5th. Doors open 5:30, show 6 o'clock. It is a charity show to raise money for a cancer research charity that's been started by Emma's family. So 100% of the proceeds that are coming into ICW Central West, so that's everything basically except for the like the booking fee and things like that that the website imposes. That's all going to the charity. So ICW Central West, myself, anyone else, none of us are making a profit out of this. This is purely to raise money for cancer charity, cancer research and early detection sort of thing. And so tickets go on sale for that on January 6th, all going well, from the Cara Civic Centre website and the box office as well. If you happen to be in Cara, the website's www.caraciviccentre.com. It's going to be a huge show and lots of good matches announced so far and many more to come. And hopefully we get a packed crowd.
I'll make sure to link the actual event page on Facebook, so that way everyone can go on there and they can find, the Cowra website and all of that stuff from there. But some pretty big matches announced so far. Just to recap, as we said, we got Jake Gibson versus Birdman. Super keen for that. Crimson Mask versus Benny the Back Rower, and the one that you just dropped on us at the start of the episode, yourself versus the returning Atticus Lane in a last man standing match for the Emma Butler Memorial Championship. That should be a good one, and I'm going to be interested to see who answers Barry Blake's open challenge.
Yeah.
Like, I know my friend Hellfire, him and Barry Blake, they have some sort of love-hate relationship. They're very good friends outside the ring, but for some reason they also want to beat each other up.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows? They may end up meeting in some form or fashion.
But time will tell. Did you want to? Do you want to plug like any of the social medias for yourself or Central West? So
we've got the ICW Central West Facebook page. We've got ICW Central West on Instagram. We've got my High Octane page on Facebook. Then just my real pages for anyone who wants to join those. And that's about it, I think.
And again, I will try to make a note to link the Instagram and the Facebook and all the fun stuff. But with that being said, I've kept you for just on an hour, which is pretty good time-wise for the both of us because we've both got stuff to do.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming on. This is actually, I've had one interview prior to this with my mate Jeff from high school, and we talked a bit of wrestling, but this is actually my very first wrestling-specific interview, and this is actually going to be episode 30, so I wanted to do something special for that. So I thank you, James, High Octane.
Oh, no worries.
For
thank you so much.
Allowing me to take your time, because Lord knows I was just a mark and you took a chance on me, and now we're here.
Happy to.
But thank you very much.
So well,
I hope
man.
you have a great day. I hope you have a great Christmas. I hope you have a great New Year.
You
Stay
too.
safe. Hope to see you at Western Warfare 5, but that will remain to be seen. But, ladies and gentlemen, that was James High Octane Lanham. All right, that was my conversation with James High Octane Lanham. This is High Octane. That is actually the name of the documentary that the two of us mentioned in the conversation, and I will remember to link it below. Highly recommend you guys check that out. Once again, the Emma Butler Memorial Show in Western Warfare 5 will be on March 5th, 2022. I'll link that below as well so you can get all your ticket and match information. Already announced, we have Birdman versus Jake Gibson, Super Crimson Mask versus Benny the Back Rower, an open challenge from Barry Blake, and as announced here on the pod, we have a huge main event featuring High Octane himself versus his old nemesis in Atticus Lane for the Emma Butler Memorial Championship in a last man standing match. I cannot wait to see that one. I hope you all had a great Christmas, as this will be dropping on Boxing Day, and I hope you all have an even better New Year. The song of the week this week was Pandora's Box by Citizen Soldier. The match of the week was Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 12 in their infamous Iron Man match. I am the essential John L. Crossfire, and you were just caught in conversation.